weapon will prosper. No enemy triumph. He will not overcome. He can't scale these walls. Injustice will not win. Hell's gates will not prevail. Not on my time. Not on my watch. I am a watchman, and I take my place. As I wait, I will keep the faith. 'Cause I am a watchman, and I stand my ground. But if I never see it, I will stay the course. I will run the race, I will fight the fight, and I will keep the faith. I keep my eyes fixed on you.
Well, good day, everybody. Pray you're having a good day today. Pastor Tim Carscadden here for the Pipeline Report, Christian Center Shreveport, as usual. On our Monday prayer watch, I'm from my little studio here at my house today. Just got so much going on as I'm preparing to leave for South Africa tomorrow. And I'll be ministering there with Apostle Natasha Gerbage and the Ariel Gate Ministry with Bishop Richard Hurd from Houston. We're looking forward to that. And we're going to be dealing with the election there because Africa is praying for America and praying for the purposes of this coming up election. And so we're going to be a part of that as well. So we'll stand in the gap. They do prayer meetings every week for the election that's going on all around the world. And we need to remember that we're not alone in this battle for our republic and what we're believing for. Encourage you to do that. Today is Columbus Day. 1462, Columbus sailed the blue, the ocean blue, they call it. And he came to America, the Americas, if we want to call it that, and the journey started. I know I saw an article on Fox News. They've done DNA. They found some of his DNA, whatever, where he was buried. And he's Jewish. And that's always been the rumor, but he was. And that was the year that Spain expelled all the Jews out of Spain. So that's very interesting, especially since Kamala has called him a racist and all these different issues in the past. So that'll be interesting. I hope it looks like on my screen, my voice is not lined up with the volume, but we'll see how that works out. Here, I got Zach with me today, my son, and we're going to be doing a topic, the 21 days pressing in for the election. It's 21 days today. It's got 3 weeks. It's hard to believe that we've come to this point. There's a lot of prophetic about October surprises, and there's a lot of stuff that can go on there that's happening that we could see some major attacks. We know China, Iran, Russia are trying to meddle in our elections as usual. Cyber attacks, etc. You got to remember, most of our voting machines are all connected to the internet. So this is a real battleground. And then we got also the hurricanes both in North Carolina and Florida, and there's battles over where they're going to get to the polls. I saw one article that almost every county that was hit so hard in North Carolina all voted for Trump in the last election. So we need to pray, that they can get out, because North Carolina is one of those key swing states, that they would get out and be able to vote and not allow the crisis to keep them from voting. Zach, let me know, my video's cutting in and out of here. Let me know if I got any problems there. But anyway, we want to press into that. That's some of the things we're crying out for right now. We want to press into what the Lord's saying. If you didn't get to see the Million Women March Saturday online, obviously some of you may have been there, amazing event, praying for the nation, pray for Israel, pray for the nation, pray for women, pray for America. The estimates came out this morning. There was 375,000 people there. So amen to that. Plus over 10 million watched online. So if you want to say a million, we had 10 million. That's the beauty of electronic age that we're in. We can do that as well. So if you're watching us on Rumble or on our YouTube page, Pipeline Report, please share that with your friends. I think it's an important time to pray and stand with Israel as well as our nation in this election. Let me give you an Israel update first. It was a rough day yesterday for Israel. Uh, Hezbollah is starting to ramp up its attack on Israel with higher technology because Israel is pretty much they're invading southern Lebanon and taking out the random rockets, which they're finding all over southern Lebanon, all Russian-made equipment, um, launchers, etc. Today, I saw a report where they were capturing the trucks, the mobile trucks, and all the different things. And these are more random. When the Hezbollah shoots toward Israel, they just shoot that direction. But now we're starting to see the drone attacks, which are all from Iran and Russia together. I've said this before. I had a vision, open vision. I was in Tiberias many years ago in Israel, and one night, just literally laying in bed, praying over the land. We were in a kibbutz there, and I just have this open vision, and I see the attacks coming against Israel militarily. And I saw all these specialized weapons. This is many years ago. This is before drone technology was really where it is now. And I see this Trojan horse, a huge Trojan horse. And I knew inside this Trojan horse was these technical weapons that Israel has never seen before, never had attacks from before. And I knew it was Iran. It was the Trojan horse wasn't a Trojan horse; it was actually a tiger, which is a type of the Persia Empire, Iran. And I thought, okay, they're the enemy. And then all of a sudden, in this open vision, this thing rolls. It has wheels on it, and it rolls out of the way. And then I see a great bear behind it, Russia. And the Lord said in the vision, He says, everybody's going to think it's Iran, but Russia is behind it all. And I want you to get this. Although Iran is sending out through its proxies, behind it all is Russia. And we need to be careful of that. And Brother Branham in 1933 gave a prophetic word, 7 great visions. All of them have come to pass except 2. And one of the things he said, watch Russia. And I think that's critical. He didn't say Soviet Union. He said Russia. And that's what we're looking at right now when we're in this battle that they're contending with. Well, yesterday, unfortunately, there was a major attack on a military base in Haifa area. And Haifa was hammered yesterday with these drones. And what they're doing is different technology. And a little bit in this report, I hate to apologize, I'm using NBC, but they did have a pretty good report on this. So we'll play this report and kind of give an update.
As a Hezbollah drone attack on an army base in central Israel killed 4 soldiers and severely injured dozens of others on Sunday.
These attacks were the deadliest strikes by the militant group since Israel launched its ground invasion of Lebanon about 2 weeks ago now. Hezbollah called the attack retaliation for Israeli strikes on the Lebanese capital on Thursday that killed 22 people.
NBC News international correspondent Megan Fitzgerald joins us now for more on this. Megan, good morning. So we know with Israel's advanced air defense systems, it's rare for so many people to be injured by a drone or a missile strike. Why did yesterday's attack by Hezbollah lead to so many casualties?
Well, Joe, good morning. And, it's a good question. And at this point, it appears as though Israel themselves can't even answer that. Israel's Minister of Defense said today that they must investigate and study the details of this attack and that they have to swiftly implement lessons learned. Now, according to the IDF, this attack happened without any warning and that they need to provide better protection. Here's some more context coming from Hezbollah. They released a statement which essentially says that they knew how to evade detection. They said that they launched a barrage of missiles to engage Israel's air defense system, but at the same time, they launched swarms of drones. They went on to say that these drones were able to successfully reach their target without detection, and we saw.
And I'm paused there because this is where Russia gets involved. This is all learned how to do in the Ukrainian war with the Iranian drones, and this is where that technology and how to evade the sirens as well as the interception of all this, and this is all learned from the Ukrainian war.
the aftermath of that play out. Guys.
Megan, Hezbollah's deadly strike in Israel, it came the same day that the U.S. announced it would send a new air defense system to Israel and that it would also send troops needed to operate it. Is the U.S. being drawn deeper into this conflict?
Well, look, we can certainly speak to the significance of the THAAD being sent. We know the mission here is to help bolster Israel's air defense following Iran's attacks, the latest being on October 1st. Significant because the THAAD can defend against long, medium, and short ballistic missiles. Now, U.S. officials have been concerned about Hezbollah's short-range system being able to penetrate Israeli defenses, but it's also important to note here that, this isn't the first time that we've seen a THAAD battery. The U.S. deployed one at the start of the war, but again, nevertheless, still a significant development.
And Megan, in addition.
So there we go. There's kind of an update on what's going on there. The THAAD, which is it can go up to 124 miles. It can go up in space, intercept ballistic missiles, and just, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but if you remember, Rick Joyner had a dream many years ago that there'd be a nuclear bomb that would go off in Israel, in the most wicked city of the nation. And most believe that's Tel Aviv. But the defense systems that Israel has right now are wonderful. They have Sling, Arrow, Dome. Those are wonderful. But this is another level because this is going up in the higher intercontinental type missile type stuff coming in. Now, we don't believe Iran has a delivery system because we lobby Israel on this and we get briefed on that. We do believe it's possible they have the technology to, build a nuclear bomb. But as far as a delivery method, we don't have that yet. We don't have proof of that. So, but, this is where America may have 100 troops in the land. This is getting really interesting because we are being drawn in a little bit here. So this is kind of what's going on the ground right now. Again, don't forget Russia. Well, let's pray into that as well. Zach, you want to speak anything?
Yeah, just kind of on numbers of the rockets that were actually sent is there's about 85% that was blocked based off of what Israel has at the current moment. And these quote unquote THAAD missiles, launcher systems that they have, that the U.S. is sending, these are things that they have been blockading for the past 4 months. So if Israel would have had this, the 15% that did get through, that did cause some damage in certain areas, that Israel was unable to push through, could have prevented the casualties that we see here. So, something as Americans, as intercessors, we have to repent for. But ultimately, we have to understand is that, look, we've agreed to things and we're not holding up our end of the bargain here. And so that 85 to 50%, Israel's concern moving forward is that the threshold, can they maintain that? Before it was at about 90% and they let some fall because they were going to fall in empty areas where it was not going to cause damage. But now, because they're targeting it towards more populated areas, what Israel believed to be the airfields, and ended up hitting civilian areas, that's caused that. Can Israel maintain that threshold, or as the increase goes on and the dwindling down of Israel's defense systems, does that mean more damages to civilians? And that's the question Israel's asking themselves.
And let's pray because we need America to release all its promised weapons and protection for Israel. Again, the Biden administration has been withholding those. I was briefed last week on that. And, I brought it up in the briefing, and reluctantly by government people and the government officials didn't want to admit it, but still agree that is going on, that the Biden administration, they don't want to speak against them because they don't want to, even lobbyists don't want to make the Biden administration angry, so they're really careful. They're very careful on how they attack Biden and Kamala Harris on this issue, because you don't want them to withdraw even more. That's kind of where they're using diplomacy on their attacks, but we're not. We can attack here. We want to speak to that and pray. And I had a dream that we can pray into this, as that there will be a release of those protective measures that we can help Israel with, and stand with covenant Israel in this hour. That's very important that America do this. Now, remember, Congress and Senate here has voted for this. They approved the funding. They approved the release of these weapons, and it has been since vetoed, in a sense. Part of it has, not all of it. Part of it has been vetoed by the Biden-Harris administration. Let's always put that together. People forget about this, and it's coming out in the campaign now. many of the policies that Biden, boasts in, the deciding vote to make those policies come to pass was by Kamala Harris. She was the deciding vote. So she's fully engaged in the policies. We cannot forget that. That is what's going on there. So anyway, that's the battle going on there. As far as, and again, here's yesterday there was, like I said, Central Israel. Matter of fact, I'm in my phone. I get the red alerts, is being bombarded by uh, weapons from Hezbollah right now as we speak on this live stream, and we need to be praying for them. And again, part of it is what Zach brought up there. They're trying to overwhelm the system in Israel. Look, this war and Israel's fight against Hezbollah, Hamas, Yemen, all these other enemies, it's not like Hollywood where you never watch a shooting scene in Hollywood where they shoot and they never reload. It's like their guns have empty, unlimited weapons and ammunitions. That's not how it works. Israel is beginning to deplete its system. When you're shooting 150 rockets a day toward Lebanon, and you're attacking constantly with large bunker busting bombs, things like that, well, they go away. They don't get replenished. It's not the fish and loaves yet. We may have to pray for that, but we don't have a replenishing of that on a daily basis. Now, the same things happen on Hezbollah. They're wasting theirs as well. Now, most of theirs are old technology and they're running out. And as Israel invades, they're going to begin to block most of those. But now we're getting the high level stuff. There was some bombing up in northern Lebanon near Tripoli. There's a Tripoli, Lebanon, in that area as well. So Israel is ramping up, trying to stop where these drones are coming from. But this is becoming very, very serious now. Like I said, we had 4 soldiers die yesterday. There was over 60 people injured in the bombing there in Haifa, and no sirens went off. That's something that's next level, because now they're evading the systems and getting into that area. So we want to pray for Israel. Anything on Israel before I move on, Zach?
I mean, one thing to be fully aware of is that as Israel starts understanding, as we're talking about here, the dwindling down of their weapon systems, and they're trying to domestically build their own, but that's going to take 5-6 years for them to even get up to full capacity of what they need right now, of sourcing it, and then trade routes, et cetera, stuff like that. A lot can happen there. So as Israel gets more, what we would call desperate, because they want to live, fighting for their survival, the ultimate question is when is enough enough, and when are they going to try to go after the ultimate end goal there, and deal with that. And the question for us as Americans is, okay, how does our administration play into that? Do they try to subvert it as they have been in this period of 21 days that we're in currently? Or if you get a different president, are they going to allow it, or is he going to subvert it? There's a whole lot of questions, a whole lot at play. That's why we want to be, one, mindful about what's going on, and then praying and interceding as well.
Okay, so updates on all these things, the election, Israel, et cetera, going in our nation, the social political issues. Remind you, we started something last week on Telegram. Telegram is an app on your phone or device. It's like WhatsApp, or it's similar to that type of application. We are now going to start putting things that we can't talk about even here, and especially on YouTube and Facebook, we can't talk about because we'll be censored. Telegram is a better platform for that. As a former Russian guy put it together because of all his censorship in Russia. So he put it together, and so it's under my name, Tim Karskaden. It's a page, a channel. It's a channel, Tim Karskaden channel, because I also have a personal account there. But it's a channel, and if you will, you need to subscribe to it. You need, first of all, download your Telegram app, register there, and then go and subscribe to that channel. Zach, maybe you can tell them how they do that, and also tell them how to turn the notification on, because what will happen is when I send a note out, you'll get it. And what we're trying to do, instead of putting all the long articles, I'll put the headline and I'll put what source it came from, Fox News, whatever. And if you'd like to read more about the headline, you can go to that website and read about it. I don't want to click the website where you click there because it takes up too much space in the Telegram feed. So I just put the title of it, and then any comments that we want to add to that. It's kind of keeping you informed, like the things that are flowing, and this is all for intercession. It's all for prayer, that we pray over these things. I'm not just trying to make you mad and, oh, it's bad, it's bad. I want you to say, pray into that. Begin to speak to the Lord and say, God, this is something that's on your heart right now. That's what we're trying to do in here. So we got to get our subscriptions up so that we can get a better channel flowing. And again, it's a better platform for us on a daily basis to begin to send you stuff that's going on daily. So Zach, anything technically they need to do to register on the channel, make sure it's not my personal page, etc.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the link in the comment sections. I did on YouTube. I'm about to put it on Rumble. You just go there and you basically join the channel and make sure you have your notifications on. And so as we release stuff, important stuff, any write-ups, any things we do leading up to the election and in the future, you will be able to get it, and be able to go back and see some of the things we have already put out. So just make sure you join the channel.
And then I'm sure up there on the top there's somewhere to put notifications, because it's one thing to be a member of the channel, but the notifications is you know how you get on your phone a little pop up screen. So anytime we put something up, you'll get a little pop up screen, just knowing that we put something up. Not that you have to go there, but just let you know we got some new stuff that we've put up on the page. So there should be a notification way there on your app to do that. I do that. So hopefully that'll help y'all, keep y'all informed. We're really just trying to equip you for prayer and to be informed on the important issues. So we try to weed out the stuff that's not important, but what is. So there were 21 days, like I said, till the election. So let's pivot here. We're going to pivot toward the election and what's going on in the election. Remind you of Chuck Pierce's word. Strike the 7 swing states. We say them over and over again. You should memorize them: Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Those are the 7 swing states, just kind of swinging around. Nevada, Arizona, go that way and go in a circle. And it'll kind of help you that way. So there's a lot of movement in those states. Like I said, I think it was last week, for the first time in some of the private polling, and I don't trust polling, but for the first time in even some of the private polling, they are saying there's potential that President Trump could win all 7 swing states. Now that's, and what that did when I heard that, even though I know I can't trust that polling because we got all the mail-in balloting and all the harvesting of ballots and so what we can't account for. But I just felt a wind on it. I felt God speak a wind on it and say what Chuck Pierce prophesied, 7, strike it 7 times, do not give up. And here's the thing, and many people, even the analysts, are saying, well, if he can get 2 or 3 of them or 3 or 4 of them, we got it. No, that's not what the prophetic word, and that's the warning out of 2 Kings 13. The king did only strike 3 times. He didn't strike the 7 times that he needed to strike or whatever he's supposed to be his enemy. We got to keep striking, and let's not accept nothing but a removal of the serpent and the Leviathan spirit that's over our land. And as I was speaking to Apostle Chuck last week when I was there, because we've been praying about, who's going to win. We've been, you scour YouTube and the prophets, and nobody's prophesying who's going to win because it's all up in the air. The main thing we're getting is it's all up in the air, can go either way. And I was speaking to Apostle Chuck, and I said, well, at least for this time you got, and we did too, all of us have seen it pretty much. I said, you got a prophetic word on a path to victory. And he said to me, yes, we did. And that's very important, that we do have a path, because God is showing us there's a way for victory. Now, we're not here saying a victory for Trump, a victory for righteousness. We want to have a path for righteousness to prevail. I'm going to try to put together a little video, probably 2-minute video or something that you can share with your friends about why you vote for righteousness and how to vote in this election, as far as that's concerned. Um, there's some that are quite a bit longer that are already out there, but really the next generation, especially a lot of younger generation, Gen X, Gen Zs, and so forth, they like the smaller clips, but just get enough information to them. Like, this is why we're voting this way. It's not because we're pro one person. And again, this is a personality battle to some people, but some people it's a policy battle. So we're trying to hit both of those things. But this is a big issue. You need to know Because there are people, I've heard Christians say this: I can't vote for Trump because I don't like his personality. And there, we've been hearing this for a long time, especially among the younger generation. And it's not about Trump. It is about righteousness and life and Israel and the things that are very important to us biblically. That's what's important. And we've got to understand, when we get our eyes on a person, we're going to miss the foundation reason of why we have to see our nation shift. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, going back to kind of everything's up in the balance is even a lot of the polls. In order for a poll to say yes, this person's going to win, it has to be 5%, in that 5% or more range of for one candidate or the other, and pretty much every poll. Other than like the main, obviously biased ones, the average polls, things that conglomerate polls, everything has everything within the margin of error. So any pollster can say, well, election day I said this, because there it's ultimately for attention and funding, et cetera, stuff like that. But for us as Americans who are trying to see, okay, which way is this going, this should one be encouraging, because I don't know if you want to touch on this, but in a lot of the Senate races, you have a lot in certain Senate races in these key swing states. What you're seeing is down ballot races where you have incumbents who have been there for 3-4 terms, where these Republicans who stand for more freedom, less regressive policies that these Democrats have been standing for, where they're now at a serious threat of losing their seats. So it's a point of contention to continue to pray for those states, and obviously we're going to join in with those who are praying. And Clay, Chuck, Dutch, everybody who's out there praying, and so just know that your prayers are working. People are waking up to what's going on. It's unfortunate that it took being on the cusp of World War III and almost dire economic collapse, despite what the government's saying. But this is a point where, unfortunately, people just aren't, awakened until now. And so we also have to pray that people, the social issues are going to come into play for the younger generations as well, because they're not necessarily touched by the economics for various reasons. But the reality is that, look, these a lot of these races, it's not just presidential, it's down ballot, and don't forget a lot of governor's races as well that are
Yes.
coming up. So this is a very important election for us to decide what the start of our future in the long run is going to be like, but in the short term as well.
And there are so many. Every congressman's up for reelection. Of course, we got many Senate races as well, so it is big, because it's very important that the righteousness side of this vote would go properly, so the House and the Senate could be a strength should President Trump win. And also, if it was to lose, at least we'd have a wall. Because I understand, I told the congregation yesterday, there is no easy path here. Either whoever wins, we're still going to be in a battle. It doesn't matter. The Dems have already tried to plan, sabotage things for if President Trump wins. And of course, if Kamala were to win, the Republicans aren't going to quit. They're going to keep fighting, and we're going to keep fighting. It doesn't matter. So even if we do get some good, righteous people and righteous standing candidates in, the battle is going to have to continue. It is not going to go away. We're in a season of war, 5785. As you've heard, we're in a decade of war. It is not going to lift up. Israel's the picture. It's not going to let up. So I'd love to say we're going to have a season of rest. And this is my warning to the body of Messiah is, should we do get righteous people in office, we cannot rest and go back to our lifestyles. We must stay on the wall. This is a long-term battle, and we cannot lose the long-term battle. We have to win the long-term battle. I understand everybody's sending me clips of Dutch Sheets's giving 15 today about covenant. I encourage you to probably listen to that. I haven't listened to it yet, but when people start sending it to me, it must be a very appropriate word for us right now. Don't forget what it says in Proverbs 29:2. It says, when the righteous increase, the people rejoice, or when the righteous rule, the people rejoice. But when the wicked man rules, people groan. And we have been groaning now for quite a few years, 4 years at least, in this season that we're in. And we have to contend for that. Now, at the million, and I didn't debated whether he would say this, but nobody's prophesying who's going to win. And they did break some altars at that, and there was Cheon got up, and if you don't know Cheon, he's a Korean minister out in California, Pasadena area, large ministry, and I understand he's making a major move and shift in California. We owe him the right that we got to meet after COVID, during COVID, because he took it all the way to the Supreme Court and allowed for the church to be able to, and he won the case. His ministry did. So we owe him a great gratitude for what he did. So this guy is on the forefront. He's not just a talker, but he did prophesy. He felt Trump was going to win the election, and he did say it. There was some wind on it when he did it as well. I tried to find the clip for today, but I couldn't find it. But it was a bold step. I think I honor him for saying what he feels God's speaking to him. So we pray into that. We pray that God's will be done. And I'm not going to sit here and say I've heard that, but I just do. I do honor him, and I think he's been a champion on the front lines. And there's certain other people coming out. Dennis Quaid, who, if you didn't see the Reagan movie, you missed it. It was really good. He came out yesterday. Let me play this clip here, where he was supporting Trump ultimately, which I thought was really interesting.
God bless you. God bless America. I'm here today to tell you that it's time to pick a side. Are we going to be a nation that stands for the Constitution or for TikTok? Are we going to be a nation of law and order or wide open borders? Which is it? Because it's time to pick a side. I'm an actor, and I just had this movie come out. It's this famous last name, Reagan. My favorite president of the 20th century. And it's amazing how the issues of the 1980 election are very similar to what they are today. I don't know if, those of you who are of a certain age here probably.
And I think if you watch the movie, which many of us did, he talks about in that movie, and I agree with him. I think we're seeing some of the same issues. We had Randy Grigsby here today. We'd kind of go down that road of some of the same issues there. It's all about the democracy and the republic. I put a little video on our Telegram page. You can go watch that. I think it's very important for you to know. Zach, why don't you speak to that, the difference of between a republic and a democracy. And I thought it was ironic. I think it's a prophetic picture that the left keeps saying that we're a threat to democracy. And if you define democracy the way it's supposed to be, well, the way it actually is, it's a soft totalitarianism type platform in the purest form. Now, we are not a democracy in its purest form. We are a republic. And there are differences. And Reagan always brought that out. That was something that he addressed all the time. And I think we've lost. And one thing that in that little clip I played, the guy talked about, his name Dunn Moot or something. He talked about how the language of keep saying democracy, democracy, democracy. We're a democratic society. When you put that narrative, people don't understand what that means, and they agree with it when in fact that's not who we are. Zach, you want to speak to that?
In the simplest form of the difference between a democracy and what a republic is a democracy is basically the will of the people, and that can change in any given notice, whichever way the wind blows. Whereas a republic, and the way our founders established our nation, was based upon a set of principles, and those principles happen to be Judeo-Christian, despite even what some Christian organizations say, that we're not a Christian nation and or founded on Judeo Christian biblical moral values. And so when the reason they want to say democracy, democracy, democracy versus we're a republic, a republic, a republic, is that when they say we're a democracy, that means whatever people want in order to gain power is how they can try to get elected. Take this for an example of, this new claim that abortion is a human right. Well, rights and or going more orthodox, this is the best way to understand it if you're debating is basically how to come up with rights, or how to come up with, they call it ought statements, what should happen. Only at the end of the day, as we believe it, as believers, as Christians, those should and ought statements come from the Lord, because that's where we're gaining our principles,
Yes.
which is what a republic is founded upon. Whereas if you're in a democracy, well, those should and oughts could be made up off of a whim. And that's why you see abortion, or unfortunately, if you want to be direct to it, and murder is something that can just be made up at a moment's notice, or made up to be able to have relations with an animal, as we've gone down that road and seen that stuff. And I'm going that direct and being that specific, because we have to understand that, okay, we can be quote unquote a democracy, but there are issues with that, and that's what ultimately. And you can look back in history and say, well, there have been democracies that failed, and there have been quote unquote republics who failed. But the reality is when you do things God's way, you have 100% of chance of success. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, are we doing things the way God intended our nation to be established? And even some of the principles that we've said, as Dutch has pointed out, even in his Given 15, is that, look, we as Americans made an agreement with the Lord rather than the reverse as he did with Israel. And so when we say we're a republic, and this is why it's key, and Speaker Mike Johnson is trying his best to get us back to this point of, look, understanding, like, even though there are things that he may not agree with that could be allowed to happen, whatever the case may be, should be said, etc., stuff like that, is he's going to rule from a place of principle and allow freedom to reign. And with that, and some people on the right have a problem with this, where people who quote unquote would do sins, but it still falls within the freedom to be able to do those things, where it's not something that they necessarily harm other people. It's just something that they personally would disagree with. And so, and in a republic, those things can be allowed, because the reverse happens. Somebody gets in office who disagrees with something that you want done or want to do with your life and your freedoms, then they can't be subjected to overrule and step in, be a totalitarian into that. And because of those boundaries, if we look back towards scripture, God actually likes boundaries, not only for a sovereign nation, but a spiritual principle as well. Then we can see where, okay, this aligns up with the Judeo-Christian values that are found in the Bible, where even though we disagree on this, you're obligated to your opinion to have said discussion, as long as it doesn't do something in the harm of another individual and or society.
Well, that's a good way of putting it, and I hope that helps y'all understand. Let's hold the line on that. Again, on my Telegram channel, you can watch a little video. It kind of describes it as well, much like what Zach did just then. Also, we want to shift a little bit. They're attacking now. They're going to attack Trump's health. I think this is such a hypocrisy right now, because now they're interested in the president's health. Before, we didn't seem to have any issues with that whatsoever, but now it's an important issue. So here's Mike on Meet the Press, Speaker Mike Johnson on Meet the Press yesterday, as they were confronting him on this issue. Very interesting here. Let me rewind it. Here we go.
Donald Trump release all of his medical records,
he
Mr.
has.
Speaker?
He issued the records of his physicians. Kamala Harris issued her medical records as a diversion because she's desperate, because she's sinking in the polls. Donald Trump's health is on display. Everyone in America can see it. The man works nonstop. He never quits. He probably sleeps 4 hours a night. He doesn't require as much sleep as the average person. He's an unusual figure. And this is the strength that we need in a time like this. We're in the most dangerous moment since World War II. You have to have strength. You have to have a steady hand. You have to have a commander-in-chief that our allies respect and our enemies fear. They do not fear Kamala Harris. They do fear Donald Trump.
Mr. Speaker,
that's what people are going to vote on.
Just to be very clear, he hasn't released all of his medical records. He released 2 letters. Should he release the results of the cognitive test?
It's unnecessary. He's on display every minute.
And I think this is important. What Speaker Johnson is saying is very important. And this is the narrative that the left is trying to push, that we can't trust this guy. He's going to destroy democracy. It's like it's right in front of them. The sky's blue, and they go, well, we don't think it's blue. We need proof that it's blue. Well, it's blue. And the fact is, we have 4 years of President Trump proving that he will not destroy democracy. Well, the way they want to describe it, it does. But as far as the way our nation should be run as a republic, we have a track record. We're not talking about something that hasn't been displayed. So let's keep listening here.
So it's unnecessary. You concede that he didn't release his medical records. You don't want to know things like his cholesterol level, whether he's dealing with any issue that
his cholesterol level. What about mental cognitive decline in the former and President Biden? Nothing. We want to talk about his cholesterol. This is hypocrisy.
may not know about if he's going to be commander-in-chief. And he also said he would release cognitive tests.
Listen to your question.
Should he release that?
The American people, Kristen, the American people don't care about the cholesterol level of Donald Trump. They care about the cost of living and the fact they cannot pay for groceries because Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's policies have put them in that situation. The medical records are irrelevant. Let's talk about things that the American people care about. That's why Donald Trump is surging in the polls, because he's doing that on stages, in interviews, nonstop around the clock, and Kamala Harris has done nothing. Every time she talks, her numbers go down because she is uniquely unqualified to be the commander-in-chief at one of the most dangerous times in the history of the country. That's a fact.
So there we go. I think it's right. Uniquely unqualified. I think the speaker put it well. I think that's exactly what we're looking at here. And again, she was going to mention cognitive. All of a sudden, it's an issue, and they have been given cover for President Biden for 4 years. And now we want to see these records. And that is I think their hearts are being riven. I think what Speaker Johnson's point is, if you want to know what his cognitive level is, watch him. And that's all we've been saying, is watch President Biden. Watch it. You don't need medical records. I don't need proof that he's been in decline. I don't. I see it. It's right there before me. And all of us, we see it. And so with President Trump, we can look at it and say, it's not there. He is cognitively alert. He's functioning properly. He may not like what he says, but he's cognitive.
Yeah, and the simplest form of what we're seeing in those tactics, because it's a straight tactic. You could call it socialist, but look at Israel. Is the very things Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran are claiming that Israel is doing are the very things that they themselves are doing, and this is nothing more than that. Goes back to Zelensky. Goes back to socialist tactics of how you get in control, of trying to dissuade. And the point at this of what they're trying to get at is they're trying to have the uninformed voter now. Well, President Biden's, he's old. He has these problems. President Trump is going to be just as old as President Biden if he were to get in office. Well, he could possibly have these same problems. Do we want to elect somebody when we just had this type of president and see how disastrous that was? That's the leg. That's the play there. That's a strategy that Kamala's campaign is trying, the Democrats and even the news media is trying to play into, is that, well, because Joe Biden is this and he's this age and President Trump is going to be this age, he's going to have these same problems. Do we want to elect that same person? And the question we have to go back to is, look at, like Meg Johnson say, look at what you're seeing in front of your very eyes, but also look at, you have to ask yourself, did you see that then? And why are you now going to discredit that? Like, it's a logical fallacy that just falls flat on its face, so many holes through it. Even when Reagan, this is the same thing they tried to do to Reagan in the 80s of saying, well, you're probably, and the movie, if you watched it in the clip that's been going around, is Reagan saying, well, I'm not going to make mention of how young my opponent and inexperienced my opponent is. And that's the same thing we see here with Kamala. So this is just a facade being thrown up by the media, and hopefully Americans see right through that.
And let's pray into that. Let's make sure that deception that they're trying to promote is revealed. That's what we got to pray. That's why we bring up these topics on this pipeline report, is we want you to know these are very important issues that we have got to pray into and make sure that doesn't become the narrative out there, that we actually get the truth. Now, yesterday also the Border Patrol, National Border Patrol Council strongly endorsed Trump at Arizona rally. So there's actually a push toward that. And yesterday, J.D. Vance was being grilled, I think it was by ABC News, on the border, and he had a good exchange here. I think I'd like to watch that a little bit. We'll watch this little exchange that he had with ABC News.
You support Donald Trump making those claims that the Republican mayor says were grossly exaggerated and have hurt the city's identity and sense of safety. I understand what you're saying, that some people left behind, but he's making these statements that the mayor is flat out disputing.
Well, Martha, you just said the mayor said they were exaggerated.
Grossly
That means that
exaggerated.
there's got to be some. That means there's got to be some element of truth here. And of course, President Trump was actually in Aurora, Colorado, talking to people on the ground. And what we're hearing, of course, Martha, is that people are terrified by what has happened with some of these Venezuelan gangs.
Senator Vance, I'm going to stop you because I know exactly what happened.
Martha.
I'm going to stop you. The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border. Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And
Boom. I thought he nailed it right there. And, only a handful of Venezuelan illegal gangs controlling apartment complexes. That's the lunacy of the left, as far as they're not even addressing the fact of what they just said. They say it is occurring. We do have illegal gangs here. We do have them controlling apartment complexes, and who knows what. Look at all the crimes that they're bearing that are being done by these illegals all across America. And I thought JD Vance did a good job. And that you understand, these Meet the Press and those type of gatherings, ABC, NBC, those are very important, because that's an audience that the Trump campaign does not get to speak to very often. And so I thought that was a very pointed part of JD Vance to speak that. And I think it was very appropriate what he said.
Yeah, it goes back to even the last debate when he brought up Springfield, Ohio, and the point that, well, that's not happening. And even here they're saying, well, that's not happening. And then she's admitting, well, it kind of is happening. The question is are we going to go down this same road of, well, it's not that big of a problem yet, so we're not going to make a big deal out of it. But what is becoming a big problem that not a lot of people are even talking about is the entrenchment in a lot of these major blue cities, and I'm going to speak specifically to Chicago, of you're seeing this exact same problem. Now, in Chicago specifically, here's the reason I'm bringing it up, so you understand the realities of what's going on. The black gangs in Chicago are fed up with this, and you could possibly see gang wars between Venezuelans and black American gangs that we see. Unfortunately, you hear about stories from in jail. I've never been there, never experienced that, but you hear these race wars in jails that could possibly play out in the streets of Chicago and the streets of New York and the streets of other, Detroit, etc. Things play out, but this stuff isn't happening. So the prayer here is that, and the hope here is that Americans who are watching this stuff or seeing these clips, the uninformed voter who is on the fence, because there are people who are still on the fence of deciding how to vote, that they are awakened to the realities of what is actually occurring.
And that's very important. What Zach said there is very important, because one of the problems that the Harris campaign is really nervous about is the low early voting that's going on, the lower than normal, because they always feel that they're favored in early voting, because they want people to vote before all the revelations of what they're really about come out. So the fact that people are waiting, it tells you that people are unsure. They're unsure. The people who already know who they're going to vote for, most of them have already voted. But those who are really waiting to see what she's about, because she's never said what she's about, and they're wanting to wait to hear something. And so these breakthrough moments, like with JD Vance and others, when God gives them a platform like that, that's very important as we move forward. And we got to pray for more of those to occur. I think that's very, very important. Go ahead.
Yeah, and a key thing here is hopefully if Trump can win and thwart off, a last minute campaign from the Democrats for Kamala, is realizing and showing yet again that putting somebody late in the game up for an office and having a campaign be so short that you can prevent them from coming in office because the American voter wants to take their time, wants to get to know people. And that's why it's key, a year out, year and a half out, as some candidates have done, to get their name out there for exposure, to let people know about their platform, because you got to think you have 300 plus million citizens who are in the United States, and how many are registered to vote, how many are actually going to vote. You got to convince them, especially as a president, to go out and vote for you and your policies and stand with you. And even though there are, disagreements and some issues you might take issue with Trump or vice versa, is we have to realize, okay, where can we coincide? Can they represent me as an American? And that's a key point here, is that hopefully, this idea of putting a candidate like they did, put a lame duck candidate, then swap them there at the end, and hopefully they can win. We just got to pray, death to that and confusion to that, as the Lord talks about in Psalms 144.
Good. And we'll close out today. Don't forget, as we said there, pray for the down ballot issues are very important, especially in your local. Watch what your states are doing. Um, if you got a congressman, a woman, vote, a senator, make sure you pray into that for your state. I can't know all of them. We thought we'd cover some of these, but there's 5 major Senate seats that could flip in this election. The one that probably right now we know is going to flip is in Montana. John Tester is a Democrat, has been in for a long time. It has been bad for him. He's tried to distance himself from Biden and Harris. It's hard because he voted with them, and so far it's been a steady lead for. I think he's a former military guy, Tim Sheehy. He's got an 8-point lead. He's had that. It's not wavered in that. Also in Ohio, Brown versus Marino. The incumbent there, the Democratic incumbent, is in trouble in that state. I know the Republicans are getting ready to spend, they're spending $80 million between Labor Day and Election Day to flip Ohio. Wisconsin also, Tammy Baldwin is in trouble there. I say trouble. Actually, it's good for us that they're in trouble there. As far as that's another one. Michigan, if you guys in Michigan, you want to pray into that one as well. There's a guy named Mike Rogers that has a shot there to move in. And Pennsylvania as well. Senator Casey's in his 4th term. And right now, the Republicans have spent over $9 million in that race. It's amazing the amounts of money that are being spent all out there in these races. And so those are the 5 states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, and Montana, where we could actually see flips in elections. You want to say anything, Zach, before we close on that?
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. We'll just retouch it. Is a lot of these Democrats, they're entrenched, they're incumbents. They've been there 3 or 4 terms, and they voted for a lot of the policies that we're seeing that are causing open borders. The list goes on and on and on there. And so having these Republicans kind of come in and jump in and say, all right, it would show a major shift in those states, and hopefully not only for just the Senate races, but also down ballot and obviously up ballot as well. But hopefully helping turn those states back towards the original intent of not only America, but even the individual states and their founding constitutions as well.
And if we were ever to have a constitutional crisis, a major problem in America, it's going to boil down to your local politicians. They're going to have rule. So it's very important that we vote all the way down the ballot on those issues. It's very important for all of us. Well, I hope we've given you a good update. Remind you again, jump on that. If you missed the first part of the live stream today, we now have a Telegram channel for speaking the things that we need to speak without fear of censorship. It's a wide open platform. Go to your phone or your device, download Telegram, Telegram app as application, and download it. And also go to our page. It's in the links here. We put it here. It's Tim Carskadden channel. It's not, I have a personal account there too, but it's a channel. And what we do is we put in breaking news, things we need to be praying into and be watching for in this hour. And again, we can do it without fear of censorship. That part is very important right now. We're trying to get a subscription. And make sure you hit the notification link on it as well, so that when we do put something up, it'll pop up on your screen. It'll just say there's a notification. You can see we put something out. And when you see something, do something for me. Just pray into that. Take 5 seconds. Lord, strengthen that right now. If I was to pull up my stream right now, I'd look at it and, like I put what we're doing right now, pray into that. But the republic versus democracy lie, I'd put that, Lord, pray that be revealed, that the people would know that we're a republic, not a democracy that way, a democratic society, and so forth. Just pray little prayers. I'm just trying to give us pointers and directives for us to pray, because I think these are very important as we move forward. 21 days out from the election. I'm not going to live in fear. We covered that yesterday in our meeting Sunday. One of the strongest words that came forth yesterday were, we have to be like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We're believing for God to break through for us, but even if he doesn't come through the way we think he should, we're still going to serve him. It doesn't matter. We serve our God not because of who's in the White House or who's in the Senate or Congress. We serve our God because of who he is in the heavenlies, and we pray for his will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. We encourage you to do that. Well, thanks for following us. Again, my podcast this week, I gave a prophetic dream today about prayer into words that are from the Lord. You've gotten a word from the Lord, a directive, and God is releasing a season right now, a point in time where there's real favor on decreeing what God has already shown you. He did that for me in a dream, and I want you to listen to that. You can go to Podbean, Apple, Spotify, whatever platform you listen to our podcast, Christian Center Shreveport, and listen to that and pray into that, and that God would give you what is his will, and to walk that out. God bless you. Love each and every one of you. God bless you. I pray for you. Pray for me as I head out on my journey tomorrow. I start flying to South Africa for just the rest of the week. I'll be back on Monday. God bless you. Have a good day.